Part 5, Chapter 5 of the Manxman. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Manxman by Sir Hall Caine, Part 5, Chapter 5. Caesar called next day and took Pete to the office of the High Bailiff, where the business of the mortgage was completed. The deeds of Ballawhaine were then committed to Caesar's care for custody and safe keeping, and he carried them off to his safe at the mill with a long stride and a face of fierce triumph. "The old Ballawhaine is dying," he thought, "and if we kick out the young one some day, it'll only be the Lord's hand on a rascal." On drawing his big cheque, Pete had realised that with reckless spending and more reckless giving he had less than £100 to his credit. No matter, he thought, Philip will pay me back when he comes into his own. Grannie was with Nancy at Elm Cottage when Pete returned home. The child was having its morning bath, and the two women were on their knees at either side of the tub, cackling and crowing like two old hens over one egg. "Aw, did you ever now, Nancy? 'Deed no, you never did see a little angel. Up a daisy. Cry I must, Grannie, when I see it looking so beautiful. Warm towels, you say? I'm a girl of this sort. When I get my heart down, I can never get it up again. Full as earth, is it? Here, then. Boo loo loo, the bog millish. Nancy, we must be shortening her soon." And with that they fell to an earnest counsel on frocks and petticoats, and other mysteries unread by man. Pete sat and watched and listened. People will be crying shame on her if they see the Granny doing everything, he thought. That night he lounged through the town and examined the shop windows out of the corner of his eye. He was trying to bear himself like a workman enjoying his Saturday night's ramble in clean clothes, but the streets were thronged, and he found himself observed. "Not here," he told himself. "I can buy nothing here. Doesn't do to be asleep at all, and a man isn't always in bed when he's sleeping." Some hours later, Nancy and the child being upstairs, Pete bethought himself of something that was kept at the bottom of a drawer. Going to the drawer to open it, he found it stiff to his tugging, and it came back with a jerk which showed it had not lately been disturbed. Pete found what he looked for, and came upon something beside. It was a cardboard box, tied about with a string, which was knotted in a peculiar way. "Kate's knot," thought Pete with a sigh. He slipped it, and opened the lid and took out a baby's hood of scarlet plush. The very thing, he thought. He held it, mouth open, over his big brown hand, and laughed with delight. She has been buying it for the child and never using it. His eyes glistened. The very thing, he thought, and then he took down pen and paper to write something to go with it. This is what he wrote. "For lil Catherine from her loving mother." Then he held it at arm's length and looked at it. The subscription crossed the whole face of a half sheet of paper, but the triumphant success of his former effort had made him bold. He could not resist the temptation to write more, so he turned the paper over and wrote on the back, "Tell Papa not to worry about me. I expect to be home soon, but don't know exactly." His eyes were swimming by the time he got that down, but they brightened again as he remembered something. "We've had great times here, Uncle Joe. Must go on milking that old cow," he thought. "Took me to see the Prince of Wales yesterday." He could not help it. He began to take a wild joy in his own inventions. Flags and bands of music all day and illuminations all night. It was grand. We were top of an omnibus going down Lord Street and saw him as plain as plain. "Bless me," said Pete, dropping his pen and rubbing his hands in ravishing contemplation of his own fiction. "The next thing we hear she'll be riding in her carriage and pair." He was sobbing a little for all that, in a low, smothered way, but he could not deny himself one word more. "Love to all enquiring friends and best respects to the Dempster if I'm not forgot at him." The second forgery of love being finished, he went about the house on tiptoe, found brown paper and twine, put the hood back into the box with his half sheet peeping from between the frills where the little face would go, and made it up with his undeft fingers into an ungainly parcel, which he addressed to himself as before. After that he did his accustomed duty with the lamp and the door, and lay down in the parlour to sleep. On Monday at dinner he broke out peevishly with, "Terrible botheration, Nancy. I must be going to Port St. Mary about that thundering demonstration." Then from underneath the sofa in the parlour he rooted up a brown paper parcel, stuffed it under his coat, buttoned it up, and so smuggled it out of the house. End of Part 5, Chapter 5.